Section 9 of Dreams by Olive Schreiner. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Noel Badrian. Chapter 11. The Sunlight Lay Across My Bed, Part 2. And partly I awoke. It was still and dark. The sound of the carriages had died in the street. The woman who laughed was gone, and the policeman's tread was heard no more. In the dark it seemed as if a great hand lay upon my heart and crushed it. I tried to breathe and tossed from side to side, and then again I fell asleep and dreamed. God took me to the edge of that world. It ended. I looked down. The gulf, it seemed to me, was fathomless. And then I saw two bridges crossing it that both sloped upwards. I said to God, "Is there no other way by which men cross it?" God said, "One. It rises far from here and slopes straight upwards." I asked God what the bridges' names were. God said, "What matter for the names? Call them the good, the true, the beautiful, if you will. You will yet not understand them." I asked God how it was I could not see the third. God said, "It is seen only by those who climb it." I said, "Do they all lead to one heaven?" God said, "All heaven is one. Nevertheless, some parts are higher than others. Those who reach the higher may always go down to rest in the lower. But those in the lower may not have strength to climb to the higher. Nevertheless, the light is all one." And I saw over the bridge nearest me, which was wider than the other, countless footmarks go. I asked God why so many went over it. God said, "It slopes less deeply, and leads to the first heaven." And I saw that some of the footmarks were of feet returning. I asked God how it was. He said, "No man who has once entered heaven ever leaves it, but some, when they have gone halfway, turn back, because they are afraid there is no land beyond." I said, "Has none ever returned?" God said, "No. Once in heaven, always in heaven." And God took me over. And when we came to one of the great doors, for heaven has more doors than one, and they are all open, the posts rose up so high on either side I could not see the top, nor indeed if there were any. And it seemed to me so wide that all hell could go in through it. I said to God, "Which is the larger, heaven or hell?" God said, "Hell is as wide, but heaven is deeper. All hell could be engulfed in heaven, but all heaven could not be engulfed in hell." And we entered. It was a still great land. The mountains rose on every hand, and there was a pale, clear light, and I saw it came from the rocks and stones. I asked God how it was, but God did not answer me. I looked and wondered, for I had thought heaven would be otherwise. And after a while it began to grow brighter, as if the day were breaking, and I asked God if the sun were not going to rise. God said, "No, we are coming to where the people are." And as we went on, it grew brighter and brighter, till it was burning day. And on the rock were flowers blooming, and trees blossomed at the roadside, and streams of water ran everywhere, and I heard the birds singing. I asked God where they were. God said, "It is the people calling to one another." And when we came nearer, I saw them walking, and they shone as they walked. I asked God how it was they wore no covering. God said, "Because all their body gives the light, they dare not cover any part." And I asked God what they were doing. God said, "Shining on the plants that they may grow." And I saw that some were working in companies, and some alone, but most were in twos, sometimes 2 men, and sometimes 2 women, but generally there was 1 man and 1 woman, and I asked God how it was. God said, "When 1 man and 1 woman shine together, it makes the most perfect light. Many plants need that for their growing. Nevertheless, there are more kinds of plants in heaven than 1, and they need many kinds of light." And one from among the people came running towards me. And when he came near, it seemed to me that he and I had played together when we were little children, and that we had been born on the same day. And I told God what I felt. God said, "All men feel so in heaven when another comes towards them." And he who ran towards me held my hand, and led me through the bright lights. And when we came among the trees, he sang aloud, and his companion answered. And it was a woman, and he showed me to her. She said, "He must have water," and she took some in her hands and fed me. I had been afraid to drink of the water in hell. And they gathered fruit for me, and gave it me to eat. They said, "We shone long to make it ripen," and they laughed together as they saw me eat it. The man said, "He is very weary, he must sleep, for I had not dared to sleep in hell." And he laid my head on his companion's knee, and spread her hair out over me. I slept, and all the while in my sleep I thought I heard the birds calling across me. And when I woke, it was like early morning, with the dew on everything. And the man took my hand and led me to a hidden spot among the rocks. The ground was very hard, but out of it were sprouting tiny plants, and there was a little stream running. He said, "This is a garden we are making. No one else knows of it. We shine here every day. See, the ground has cracked with our shining, and this little stream is bursting out. See, the flowers are growing." And he climbed on the rocks and picked from above 2 little flowers with dew on them, and gave them to me, and I took 1 in each hand. My hands shone as I held them. He said, "This garden is for all when it is finished," and he went away to his companion, and I went out into the great pathway. And as I walked in the light, I heard a loud sound of much singing, and when I came nearer I saw one with closed eyes, singing, and his fellows were standing round him, and the light on the closed eyes was brighter than anything I had seen in heaven. I asked one who it was, and he said, "Hush, our singing bird." And I asked why the eyes shone so, and he said, "They cannot see, and we have kissed them till they shone so." And the people gathered closer round him. And when I went a little further, I saw a crowd crossing among the trees of light with great laughter. When they came close, I saw they carried one without hands or feet, and a light came from the maimed limbs so bright that I could not look at them. And I said to one, "What is it?" He answered, "This is our brother who once fell and lost his hands and feet, and since then he cannot help himself. But we have touched the maimed stumps so often that now they shine brighter than anything in heaven. We pass him on that he may shine on things that need much heat. No one is allowed to keep him long, he belongs to all." And they went on among the trees. I said to God, "This is a strange land. I had thought blindness and maimedness were great evils. Here men make them to a rejoicing." God said, "Didst thou then think that love had need of eyes and hands?" And I walked down the shining way with palms on either hand. I said to God, "Ever since I was a little child and sat alone and cried, I have dreamed of this land, and now I will not go away again. I will stay here and shine." And I began to take off my garments, that I might shine as others in that land. But when I looked down, I saw my body gave no light. I said to God, "How is it?" God said, "Is there no dark blood in your heart? Is it bitter against none?" And I said, "Yes." And I thought, now is the time when I will tell God that which I have been meaning to tell him all along, how badly my fellow men have treated me, how they have misunderstood me, how I have intended to be magnanimous and generous to them, and they... And I began to tell God, but when I looked down all the flowers were withering under my breath, and I was silent. And God called me to come up higher, and I gathered my mantle about me and followed him. And the rocks grew higher and steeper on every side, and we came at last to a place where a great mountain rose, whose top was lost in the clouds. And on its side I saw men working, and they picked at the earth with huge picks. And I saw that they laboured mightily, and some laboured in companies, but most laboured singly. And I saw the drops of sweat fall from their foreheads, and the muscles of their arms stood out with labour. And I said, I had not thought in heaven to see men labour so. And I thought of the garden where men sang and loved, and I wondered that any should choose to labour on that bare mountain-side. And I saw upon the foreheads of the men as they worked a light, and the drops which fell from them as they worked had light. And I asked God what they were seeking for. And God touched my eyes, and I saw that what they found were small stones which had been too bright for me to see before. And I saw that the light of the stones and the light of the men's foreheads was the same. And I saw that when one found a stone, he passed it on to his fellow, and he to another, and he to another. No man kept the stone he found. And at times they gathered in great company about where a large stone was found, and raised a great shout, so that the sky rang. Then they worked on again. And I asked God what they did with the stones they found at last. Then God touched my eyes again to make them stronger, and I looked, and at my feet was a mighty crown. The light streamed out from it. God said, each stone as they find it is set here. And the crown was wrought according to a marvellous pattern. One pattern ran through all, yet each part was different. I said to God, how does each man know where to set his stone, so that the pattern is worked out? God said, because in the light his forehead sheds, each man sees faintly outlines that full crown. And I said, but how is it that each stone is joined along its edges to its fellows, so that there is no seam anywhere? God said, the stones are alive, they grow. And I said, but what does each man gain by his working? God said, he sees his outline filled. I said, but those stones which are last set cover those which were first, and those will again be covered by those which come later. God said, they are covered, but not hid. The light is the light of all. Without the first, no last. And I said to God, when will this crown be ended? And God said, look up. I looked up, and I saw the mountain tower above me, but its summit I could not see. It was lost in the clouds. God said no more. And I looked at the crown. Then a longing seized me, like the passion of a mother for the child whom death has taken, like the yearning of a friend for the friend whom life has buried, like the hunger of dying eyes for a life that is slipping, like the thirst of a soul for love at its first spring waking. so, but fiercer was the longing in me. I cried to God, I too will work here. I too will set stones in the wonderful pattern. It shall grow beneath my hand, and if it be that, labouring here for years, I should not find one stone, at least I will be with the men that labour here. I shall hear their shout of joy when each stone is found. I shall join in their triumph. I shall shout among them. I shall see the crown grow. So great was my longing as I looked at the crown. I thought a faint light fell from my forehead also. God said, Do you not hear the singing in the gardens? I said, No, I hear nothing. I see only the crown. And I was dumb with longing. I forgot all the flowers of the lower heaven and the singing there. And I ran forward and threw my mantle on the earth and bent to seize one of the mighty tools which lay there. I could not lift it from the earth. God said, Where hast thou earned the strength to raise it? Take up thy mantle. And I took up my mantle and followed where God called me. But I looked back, and I saw the crown burning, my crown that I had loved. Higher and higher we climbed, and the air grew thinner. Not a tree or plant was on the bare rocks, and the stillness was unbroken. My breath came hard and quick, and the blood crept within my fingertips. I said to God, Is this heaven? God said, Yes, it is the highest. And still we climbed. I said to God, I cannot breathe so high. God said, Because the air is pure? And my head grew dizzy, and as I climbed the blood burst from my fingertips. Then we came out upon a lonely mountain top. No living being moved there, but far off on a solitary peak I saw a lonely figure standing. Whether it were man or woman I could not tell, for partly it seemed the figure of a woman, but its limbs were the mighty limbs of a man. I asked God whether it was man or woman. God said, In the least heaven sex reigns supreme. In the higher it is not noticed, but in the highest it does not exist. And I saw the figure bend over its work and labour mightily, but what it laboured at I could not see. I said to God, How came it here? God said, By a bloody stair. Step by step it mounted from the lowest hell, and day by day, as hell grew further and heaven no nearer, it hung alone between two worlds. Hour by hour in that bitter struggle its limbs grew larger, till there fell from it rag by rag the garments which it started with. Drops fell from its eyes as it strained them. Each step it climbed was wet with blood. Then it came out here. And I thought of the garden where the men sang with their arms round one another, and the mountainside where they worked in company, and I shuddered. And I said, Is it not terribly alone here? God said, It is never alone. I said, What has it for all its labour? I see nothing return to it. Then God touched my eyes, and I saw stretched out beneath us the plains of heaven and hell, and all that was within them. God said, From that lone height on which he stands all things are open. To him is clear the shining in the garden. He sees the flower break forth and the stream sparkle. No shout is raised upon the mountain side, but his ear may hear it. He sees the crown grow and the light shoot from it. All hell is open to him. He sees the paths mount upwards. To him hell is the seed ground from which heaven springs. He sees the sap ascending. And I saw the figure bend over its work, and the light from its face fell upon it. And I said to God, What is it making? And God said, "Music," and he touched my ears, and I heard it. And after a long while I whispered to God, "This is heaven." And God asked me why I was crying, but I could not answer for joy. And the face turned from its work, and the light fell upon me. Then it grew so bright I could not see things separately, and which were God or the man or I could not tell. We were all blended. I cried to God, "Where are you?" But there was no answer, only music and light. Afterwards, when it had grown so dark again that I could see things separately, I found that I was standing there wrapped tight in my old brown earthly cloak, and God and the man were separated from each other and from me. I did not dare say I would go and make music beside the man. I knew I could not reach even to his knee, nor move the instrument he played. But I thought I would stand there on my little peak and sing an accompaniment to that great music. And I tried, but my voice failed. It piped and quavered. I could not sing that tune. I was silent. Then God pointed to me that I should go out of heaven. And I cried to God, "Oh, let me stay here, if indeed it be, as I know it is, that I am not great enough to sing upon the mountain, nor strong enough to labour on its side, nor bright enough to shine and love within the garden. At least let me go down to the great gateway. Humbly I will kneel there sweeping, and as the saved pass in, I will see the light upon their faces. I shall hear the singing in the garden, and the shout upon the hillside." God said, "It may not be." He pointed. And I cried, "If I may not stay in heaven, then let me go down to hell, and I will grasp the hands of men and women there, and slowly, holding one another's hands, we will work our way upwards." Still God pointed. And I threw myself upon the earth and cried, "Earth is so small, so mean, it is not meet a soul should see heaven and be cast out again." And God laid his hand on me and said, "Go back to earth, that which you seek is there." I awoke. It was morning. The silence and darkness of the night were gone. Through my narrow attic window I saw the light of another day. I closed my eyes and turned towards the wall. I could not look upon the dull grey world. In the streets below, men and women streamed past by hundreds. I heard the beat of their feet on the pavement. Men on their way to business, servants on errands, boys hurrying to school, weary professors pacing slowly the old street, prostitutes, men and women dragging their feet wearily after last night's debauch, artists with quick, impatient footsteps, tradesmen for orders, children to seek for bread. I heard the stream beat by, and at the alley's mouth, at the street corner, a broken barrel organ was playing. Sometimes it quavered and almost stopped, then went on again, like a broken human voice. I listened. My heart scarcely moved. It was as cold as lead. I could not bear the long day before me, and I tried to sleep again. Yet still I heard the feet upon the pavement. And suddenly I heard them cry loud as they beat, "We are seeking, we are seeking, we are seeking." And the broken barrel organ at the street corner sobbed, "The beautiful, the beautiful, the beautiful." And my heart, which had been dead, cried out with every throb, "Love, truth, the beautiful, the beautiful." It was the music I had heard in heaven that I could not sing there. And fully I awoke. Upon the faded quilt across my bed, a long yellow streak of pale London sunlight was lying. It fell through my narrow attic window. I laughed. I rose. I was glad the long day was before me. Paris and London. End of section 9 and End of Dreams by Olive Schreiner.